Hours of Doom. Method with the pick, Leftovers will have first choice. And, as we've seen yesterday, Raynor was popular in one of our matchups, only shown once in our second series, but he is someone that we have to consider for our teams. I do wonder if Leftovers will go down the Raynor route. They've been showing a little bit more Maiev Phoenix as one of their main foundations for compositions, and suddenly you have this dive coming in with a Raynor follow-up. Seems like it wouldn't be a good mix, so we're either going to see some adjustments from them in terms of what they wanted from compositions, or probably Raynor not even be a factor for Leftovers, but I'm curious what Method will do with the character.
I'm really sure that we're going to see a lot of Raynor today again. Normally when we have a rework or a new hero coming in, a lot of the teams, the new heroes are even overused a bit to the extent where everyone is trying to see, okay, how much of a priority do we have to give to that hero? And you also have to remember that one of the reasons why Raynor is popping up this heavily is that we have that extra ban, because all of a sudden a lot more assassins are banned out, and that limits the pool a bit more of what you can use. And Raynor is still very powerful, so he oftentimes ends up being that choice then. We haven't really seen too many bans on him yet. I think he was banned in one of the games. That was the last match where Fnatic played against Zealots. But outside of that, Raynor has been able to make it through into the games themselves. And of course, he's not the only hero that we have to watch out for today. There's still the chance that we're going to see Asmodan pop up at some point if a team has maybe developed a strategy with him. Would expect a lot of Diablo to be played here too, especially on the side of Leftovers. The hero is currently extremely powerful and has actually started to push up into our top tank position. Diablo is currently sitting at a 61% win rate with 17 wins and 11 losses, so even surpassing Muradin here.
Abathur and Phoenix fanned out, Method identifying. The DAB was a menace on top of that Phoenix.
But it also comes back to what we talked before when it comes to Raynor, right? So you're already banning Phoenix out. There's still a really good chance that we're going to see a Tracer ban too, especially since Leftovers love to play DAB on Tracer, even though she has fallen a little bit. But now you have still to consider, okay, if we are starting to ban out auto attackers, where does Raynor end up then?
See if Tracer gets banned here. Method thinking about it.
Raynor, by the way, also in a really interesting spot against Tracer, since the auto attacks can really hit hard against her. So that all of a sudden puts another counter into play. And especially if you spec into your extra armor on level 4 with a fight or flight, you can have another tool where you can mitigate some of the damage that comes from the pulse bomb itself. So there's a couple of arguments to be made why he can be used against her, very much in the same way that we had Hammer in the past occasionally picked against Tracer, just because those auto attacks are something you simply cannot dodge.
Tracer comes out though. Genji was banned out instead here for Method. So we'll see what Leftovers is going to move into. Suddenly Method has considered, do we want to grab Malfurion a bit earlier, because typically you pair Malfurion with the Tracer. We've seen some Deckard Cain occasionally with the potions, at level 4 being enough for Tracer, but Malfurion is probably one of the best pairings you could possibly get. So we'll see if Method will allow that to happen.
I mean, for me, the draft already screams that Method definitely has a plan against Tracer. This was basically them saying, please take it. Do us a favor, take Tracer. We have something prepared against that. I talked about Diablo earlier and how strong he currently is, how powerful he feels as one of the frontliners, and he's an insta-pick here for Method, and together with that they also take Urel. So they are now in a spot where they have their off lane, they have their main tank. It's a very, very beefy setup, difficult to break through, and a lot of control against Tracer as well, especially around Diablo with the point and click that he has.
Really reflecting what you were talking about earlier, with Muradin especially being a main focus for Method in the past, Diablo and his prevalence becoming a first pick for them, that really is a statement of where Diablo is currently at when it comes to our meta. Malfurion, however, was left open, and Leftovers will snatch that away, say, okay, thank you very much. They look over to Dahaka as well to get that global presence, but you have to wonder, what does Method have in plan for this Tracer? Because TAB with a Malfurion to back him up is still a scary prospect here for Method to try and deal with. I'm actually kind of curious what they're going to try and pull into, or if they just believe they can out-mechanicalize them.
For me, when you look at what Method does is, they are basically just saying, who's Tracer going to kill? At this point, there are not really any good targets out.
Yeah, they are tanky.
Getting Urel is going to be difficult for you. Taking Diablo down is nearly impossible for Tracer alone. There needs to be a lot more on the side of Leftovers, and we're going to see the second damage come in later in the draft. But I would expect for Method to really have something prepared here. They know how much Leftovers want to play Tracer, so not banning her out even though we have that extra ban clearly signals that they are absolutely okay going up against Tracer here. And
Raynor.
Here we have Raynor. So again, it's the auto attacks of Raynor and also his ability to mitigate some of the pulse bomb damage that comes out of Tracer. So yeah, I mean, this is pretty much what I talked about once we started the draft and we talked about Raynor and where his role is currently. So Method with a very, very good setup here. Also picking Deckard Cain. Now, You talked a little bit about how the potions can be used in level 4 if you're playing with the Tracer. Same is of course true against her too. And here comes the leftover special, specking into that Maiev that has been so powerful for them in the past, especially against Fnatic.
Murden. Question for me here is we've been seeing a lot of Hyperion picked up with Raynor. Is this a game where we maybe get that Raiders to finally come out to deal with Tracers coming your way? Or do you deal with Hyperion, who Maiev, Dahaka, Murden are trying to overrun you with, and you get that extra damage in the middle of a fight?
It's a good question. I'm still a huge fan of Hyperion, but there's definitely a value to the Raiders that can be used. This might be the game where she comes in, and we have not only Reyna, we actually have Hammer too. So there is a lot of auto attack, and yeah, this is pretty much the plan here. You bait out the Tracer pick, and then you're going full auto attack damage. You have a front line that's insanely difficult to break through. And you're just saying whenever Tracer gets close, she's just gonna go down right away.
Yeah, fights will have to be started with a pulse bomb, it feels like, for Tracer to even have any type of usefulness in these team fights. They may have to dance around her a lot here on Towers of Doom, and there's only so much you can do. There is good news for Leftovers. They have a composition that they are very familiar with that Maiev and that Tracer, and then having a global on this battleground against the Sergeant Hammer can give you some situations where you out-rotate. But if they lose an altar here, I'm terrified for them. Them getting a bell tower back is going to be difficult.
I actually think that for Method, this is a fantastic draft because they knew what the Leftovers wanted. What are Leftovers known for? Tracer play or any kind of hero that DAB can play, and especially Tracer and Phoenix are two of the staples, and Maiev. And they gave everything over. They just said, okay, listen, you can have those, that's fine with us, because we're just designing a draft that is from the get-go designed to shut that down. If you still want to play it, be our guest, but you're not going to have fun with it.
Yeah, it's going to be a very difficult task for them. That's one of the things about Method that's so enjoyable to watch, too, is sometimes you have teams come in and say, okay, we just ban away your favorite heroes. Good luck with that. But they say, you know what? Let's take on your favorite heroes. We're so strong in our draft that we're going to be in a spot where we're going to be able to counter you well, and they have put themselves in a really good spot. Let's go ahead to game number 1 here in Towers of Doom, and we'll see if Tracer can get any type of influence going here for the Leftovers, because I, personally, am incredibly terrified for this game.
Yeah, DAB has to be absolutely on point, and it's going to be rough for him with this much auto attack damage coming up against him. Game number 1, ladies and gentlemen, as we start into the series between Method and the Leftovers. And to the left side, ADRD on Sergeant Hammer. We have Bad Benny on Diablo this time, not Muradin, which he's known for. Nick finds himself on Reyna, Ethereal Angel on Urel, of course, and Curson on Deckard Cain.
On the right side, Linked on Malfurion, DAB playing Tracer, Blood Kidney on Maiev, Polyboss on Dahaka, and Muradin will be played by Mopsio.
Tracer against auto attack damage is always a really interesting interaction, and it's one of those tools that has been used against Tracer in the past quite heavily. So we're going to see how much DAB can really pull off in this game, where he has to face off against Reyna and also against Sergeant Hammer. Ace in the hole is of course the tool on level 1 for Jim Reyna, but Benny very likely to spec into the Lightning Breath later to get those extra slows in. And of course, he's not the only one who can provide that. Deckard Cain also a huge plus in that sense. But we have the aggression coming from Leftovers in the early stages here against Curson.
Curson gets pulled in, drops on the scroll. DAB working on that pulse bomb, but doesn't have it quite yet, so he can't go for the full dive. ADRD and Curson able to hold off the Leftovers, but I enjoy seeing this aggression here from the Leftovers. They are trying to bring the fight to Method, and against a Sergeant Hammer composition, you have to.
Yeah, they're doing really well with this. Trying from the get-go to really just put their mark onto the game, and that's highly important here. Benny with a great anchoring play against Nick. This is going to be important. You have to keep Reyna safe. He was one of the priority targets for the Zealots yesterday when Fnatic played a lot with Jimmy, and every single time was an attempted blow-up against Reyna. But right now, the idea is, of course, that Diablo is going to provide some safety. We have the peel in big team fights also available through Urel herself, so that's going to be important to make sure that no one really gets too close, especially when we're talking about Maiev. But the auto attack damage is going to also put a lot of pressure onto Muradin. We haven't even mentioned him. We are focused on Tracer here so far. But Mopsio is going to find himself in the spot where he needs to be very careful with that. One of the reasons why we have block on level 1 for him.
Big tether comes in, but Nick and ADRD split. Nick goes to the top left, straight to Curson. Make sure no fan on knives will be reset there. Smart little maneuver by Method as they're able to escape the aggression coming their way. And while we're talking about tanks, Muradin brings in the ability to jump in, obviously find a target, get a Stormbolt, and try to blow them up or take them out. But what would you thought of maybe a Johanna here instead? Bringing the blinds in, giving a little bit more wave clear here to a team that's kind of missing in the wave clear. Would that be a decent pick for them? I was kind of wondering about that for their 5th.
You could have gone for it, I assume. Like, the thing is, they didn't know that Hammer would be picked on the last slot, so they probably assumed that there would be on one auto attacker and not two. So I think that's part of the reason. But it's also that engage that you've been talking about. And talking about engage, that's the first kill as we have Hammer going down. A very good burrow here that we see coming in from the Haka. And then the kill against Hammer is secured by Tracer. Great job by DAB. Very well done here, leaving of course Urel alone at the top lane for quite some time, but since the wave was pushed out before Dihaka moved in, Muradin has now the opportunity to move back up and make sure that they don't lose out on any of the experience on lane.
What I really enjoyed about that aggression from Leftovers was that Mobsteel was showing in the middle lane, clearing out a wave, which made me have to think, okay, we can step up a little bit. We don't have a Muradin that's going to hop onto us, but Dihaka, that factor coming in from behind, became the main tank in that instance to make sure they can land a drag, with Leftovers finding the aggression on Sergeant Hammer. It was a great masking of saying, hey, we're not going to bring aggression here, we just want to soak, and that allowed for them to take Method's guard and bring it down a little bit for them to get a pick.
Now, of course, the fight about the... actually, there's not even a fight about the third altar. Method is willing to give it up for now. Leftovers taking 2 altars out of the 3, and therefore on 32 points on Method's side now. I also wanted to highlight that we've been talking about Diablo a bit and how strong he is right now, that he's currently sitting at 17 wins and 11 losses. And if you actually look over to Method, they themselves haven't lost with Diablo yet. They played him 3 times, and they are still undefeated when playing Diablo. And since we had the rework coming in, I also wanted to put some numbers onto how Jimmy performed so far. And he's sitting at 5 games played and won only 2 out of those 5. But if you look at the level 4 adjustment now, this is exactly what we expected here. Flight or fight taken for Jimmy. And it makes a lot of sense for Nick to go into the talent, since one of the concerns that you have when you play Reyna into the composition that the Leftovers are using here is you want to have that extra armor, especially when the Pulse Bomb comes out, but it's also really useful once there's a move onto you. Being it for Muradin or Maiev, it doesn't really matter, but that's really a powerful tool for him to take here.
Armor, cooldown reduction, what's not to love about that pickup? Fight here on the bottom left, the Leftovers continue their aggression. They actually find Curson here on the side, bringing out a Stormbolt, bringing a Tether, and Curson gets cleaned up. Leftovers are up 2-0 in kills, and they're attending to take away the sappers from their opponent, and they'll get them.
Yeah, they're doing really well here with the early game aggression. The only question that I really have is, can they keep it up after level 10? I love that they're really identifying that at this point in time they have an advantage here, but the teamfights are going to become more difficult once that level 10 hits, especially when Diablo also has the Lightning Breath available. There's going to be so many tools that really allow Method to control space, especially if Reyna specs into Hyperion over Reyna's Raiders. But of course, considering late game scenarios, we have the Haka on the other side, so that's a global where you have a great macro play.
Leftovers making a play for this tribute on the bottom. There is 2 currently up, 1 in the middle and 1 in the south. Leftovers feigns a little bit of aggression here at the bottom, but they actually run straight over to Urel. Potibus going to make Urel back up as Kidney will start the channel. And so far, Method inches forward, barely trying to get in range here to grab the altar, and Nick will grab a few points, meaning we'll go ahead and get them down to 32. The middle altar actually wasn't grabbed, but Kidney having a hard time channeling it. Finally, he gets it there.
It was a great route by Ling to zone him out. Benny would have gotten close enough to interrupt it again, but that was well done. Method actually held on to that middle altar for much longer than I expected them to. Leftovers grabbed it in the end, so it's a 1-for-1 trade, but still a nice effort from Method here for sure. But the Leftovers definitely the aggressor so far in this game. They're doing well here, and they are slightly ahead in experience. But as you said before, once that Method starts to control the map with Sergeant Hammer, it's going to be very tough for Leftovers to get back into it. So they need to be aggressive. They need to be the team that really makes the moves now.
Now, Loon's Wrath at level 7 being picked up from Maiev is going to allow for her to constantly keep in those combos that fan the knives, bringing in that extra damage, which is something that you should consider picking up if you ever are going to play Maiev. And this will help with this dive that's coming in from Leftovers. They want to clean up a target as quick as possible. So Leftovers, they move towards level 10, looking to maybe set up a gank here in the middle. 10 connects, and Bad Benny plays safe, sitting next to his turrets with Nick on the backside with a mount as well, as Method just tries to get 10 themselves.
Yeah, ADRD currently alone at the bot lane. DAB already just riding around here, making sure that he's in the vicinity and can jump onto Hammer whenever there's a setup for him. Being that through the Haka with a burrow or even Muradin just engaging. The level 10 ability for Leftovers dropped into their hands a little bit faster than for Method, but they couldn't really use that window. It was too small. And now we have the 10s readily available for the Method as well. And that brings us again to Hyperion. So zone control going to be very important for them. And of course, next to that, the Lightning Breath that would allow Reyna to really proc Ace in the Hole here on level 1 and get those extra 30% damage in with every single auto attack.
Leftovers have their sappers pushing in, so they're trying to threaten the idea of coming for an invade, but Method's not buying. They're going to go ahead and grab the sappers here at the bottom left. With one ult to the top left and top right, typically you see the one-on-one trade, and that is happening here. So it'll be a who can get these sappers in, and if Method can get Sergeant Hammer down that bottom lane, they should be able to defend pretty well. In fact, even start a push.
Yeah, the next few fights are going to be very crucial. So far, Leftovers have completely dominated the early game. They got their 2 kills. They were really meticulous about grabbing those altars too, but now that level 10 abilities are in play, there's a lot of synergy that Method can rely upon, and for Leftovers, their job is going to be to break through that and still confirm their kills. Malfurion with Tranquility is going to give them a lot of that fight sustain that they are going to need to keep everybody alive, especially when those AoE abilities are going to be stacked like Hyperion and the Lightning Breath. But I'm not quite sure if it's going to be enough, and that's something they have to prove here. If they can find the kills again, that would be a good start, but Method is definitely a lot stronger now that they reach the mid-game.
This is so annoying as a Tracer player.
Yeah.
Just slowly get inched up on, and suddenly damage comes out in stealth mode. ADRD gets Tracer back, but she defends well enough, and she has Malfurion to back her up, so she's just fine.
I mean, it's the thought process here, right? The auto attacks against Tracer, the heavy auto attacks against Murden, especially once the level 16 talents are hitting. But that's exactly the game plan. That's why Method drafted this, so they're going to look for exactly those damage outputs. Talking about damage, Mopsio receiving a lot of that, still has the Dwarf Toss available and is able to move out, but that definitely just chunked him down to 50% hit points within seconds.
One lone altar will spawn on the next phase. The next one will be 3 altars. The Leftovers already set up for it. Pulse Bomb comes out, hits ADRD. He'll make sure that he pops out his armor just to make sure he negates as much damage as possible. Curson should be able to heal him up. But Leftovers will have 13 during this altar phase, which should give them a nice little power spike. We'll see if they can use that to their advantage as Dahaka pushes up the top lane.
Yeah, I want to see how Leftovers are going to get their kills, and especially against Tool from here on out. Because Urel with Ardent Defender, that's going to be tough. Diablo already at 100 souls, and also he has on level 1 his Soul Shield, which is going to make it very difficult. And we talked about Reyna, we talked about Hammer, but this is going to be an important one. How are the Leftovers going to approach this? They go for Diablo, and they actually do a lot of damage. Hyperion comes out. Here comes the engage by Maiev in the backline as Link is probing Tranquility to keep the team alive. Isolation has hit Diablo, and Nick falls. Reyna goes down. Great kill by the Leftovers. They're trying to make it a double, moving into Benny. Blue Kidney barely moving out, but Method is not losing the second. Here comes the Lightning Breath, but Reyna isn't here anymore to capitalize on it, and DAB is just running the show in the backline, taking Hammer down. The double kill as Leftovers channel the altar and claim level 13 for the added advantage.
I will say, I was very concerned for Leftovers coming into this composition. I feel like Method prepped themselves really well to be able to deal with Tracer, with Maiev, all this aggression coming their way. And while they've done all right, I've got to say, Mopsio has been killing it on this front line, baiting Diablo in the top left corner into a spot where he thought he could get a charge, sliding to the side, letting Dahaka move in to grab a drag, which opened a window for Black Kidney to move in and get on that back line. And between DAB and Mopsio, they finally picked off Nick.
Leftovers is just so impressive right now. And the last fight went so well for them because they took down Reyna before Diablo even used his Lightning Breath. So there was very little chance for Reyna to really proc his extra damage off slows. Now, of course, there's Deckard to consider, and Reyna himself has also taken the Unstable Compound on level 7. So with every 4th hit that he gets through, with every give him some pepper, he also has that slow that he himself can provide. But it's just completely different if you have that Lightning Breath coming through that allows you to hit whoever you want and just get continuous damage out. So it was an amazing kill from Leftovers to focus on Reyna first and actually securing that. And I'm really impressed by the way that Leftovers are running this. This is so disciplined and so well coordinated. It's a pleasure to watch, and Method is definitely struggling. But I still, in the back of my head, there's still this thought, what if Method just gets one good fight?
Yeah.
So Leftovers have to be really on their toes.
Well, Method has even talent tiers for a little bit longer here. 16 is slowly eking forward for the Leftovers. They actually have a bit of a concave up on this bottom temple where ADRD is sneaking forward. Murden has a wide flank available, and Nick will be a nice target for him to hop onto.
They won 16. Leftovers are so close to the extra talent. Dahaka is channeling the top, but if he can just get one more wave at the top and maybe one at the bottom here, that would be enough. and then he can use his global to just move down. Hyperion being used once again. Blakidney in the back line, but he's down. That's the kill they were looking for. The counter kill attempt though, and they get it. Deckard Cain is dead. Tranquility popped. Link is just keeping everyone alive with his ult, doing a fantastic job here, but now Mopsio is in trouble himself. The 16 talent advantage for the leftovers, trying to carry them through that team fight, but Method is mercilessly pushing forward now.
Mopsio has a tap. Okay, he has a tap up. This should allow for him to re-engage. He can hop in at any point here, having the ability to move forward, as he also has the heals available on his trait thanks to his level 16 pickup. Ethereal Bad Mini though, really doing well on sustain as Potibus goes forward, tries to grab a drag. The cleanse comes out from ADRD, but he jumps in. Stormbolt connects. Mopsio goes straight for it. Will ADRD fall? He's low on health. There it is.
Again, leftovers with perfect teamfight coordination, especially after the kill against Myethia. They go for Diablo. The damage dealers are already gone, with the exception of Nick, who's still trying to somehow salvage the situation here. Ethereal creating some space, rushing away with a divine pick, but leftovers have taken control of the altar. The level 16 talent in this fight, absolutely crucial, doing so much for them, especially when we're looking towards Muradin. Stone form, and also his ability to tap at the well to use his healing static, kept him alive for so long and enabled to re-engage in the fight itself. Extremely well coordinated here. And I have to say, one of the things that really works out for leftovers in these fights is Link's tranquility. That keeps them in the fight for so long. It's just sustaining them through all of this. And their big advantage was, of course, that extra level 16 talent. Leftovers with a fantastic game 1 against Method so far.
Gotta say that team fight in general was a joy to watch. You had Sergeant Hammer coming around from the side, punishing Maiev, who went in for an aggressive dive on top of Nick. The fight or flight kept him alive, but the trade back on Deckard Cain kept the leftovers in there. And as you mentioned, the level 16 finally came in and paid off for leftovers, and they're reaping the rewards right now. Bottom left bell tower taken. You have the boss being grabbed as well. 24-8 in shots. Leftovers are leading.
Yeah, they absolutely are. 8 against 24, fantastic position for leftovers to be in. They took the bottom bell tower and they traded it for the boss. They fully realized that with Hammer on the other side and also Hyperion, eventually Method could just force the bottom bell tower. So they're just getting value at the top, claiming the boss and getting those extra 4 shots. Even playing patiently now that we have the aggressive invade for Method. Because Method wants to be aggressive right now. This is 16 versus 16 talents. You might be 2 levels behind, but it's the equilibrium in talents that you're really looking to. And leftovers, they're just saying, guys, we have 1.5 levels. If we can avoid fighting until then, let's do it. Push the Haka top, try to get a bell tower there. Even if we lose the bot lane, as long as we claim the 20, we should be able to take team fights there. Just don't allow Method to stomp us now in a big fight and gain momentum from that.
Leftovers getting a little bit aggressive here. Bodyboss even coming in with the Brush Doctor, but Kidney hasn't used his teleport yet to jump on that back line, but Ethereal is primed and ready. He goes in for a bit of a slow. Mopsio jumps forward, waiting for Maiev. There it is. Deckard Cain goes for the stay while and listen, but he is tethered. Blakidney pulls him in. There's 3. DAB comes over. He goes straight for Nick.
Unbelievable silence here again. Down goes Deckard Cain. Urel and Diablo follow. It's a triple kill. They're trying to make it a quad as Nick is under pressure. What an amazing game by leftovers here. They look like a different team, and it is just mind-blowing how much they currently dominate this game. Method allowed them to get Tracer. They said, we dare you. We're going to pick the auto attack damage. We're going to pick Diablo. We're going to control that with click and point spells. And how are you going to deal with this? And leftovers just said, we got this.
Look at Blakidney. He gets up here, grabs the tether, he pulls 3 in. Ethereal as well gets locked down on DAP. He just finds his target. He goes straight for Nick. But on the side, Fan of Knives. Reset after reset after reset. Blakidney destroying the front line. That allows Leftover to push forward and, of course, grab their level 20s. Only 4 shots left for Method. And if they lose those shots, that's game.
We have a 3-level lead for the leftovers against Method. And it's only 4 points away, as you already said, from them winning the first game. Level 20 is in the hands of leftovers. So now we have also Contagion for the Haka. And so far the plays that we've seen out of Potibos were absolutely fantastic. He's really been on point with those ults, making sure that he gets the isolation onto Deckard, for example, and allows to get the kills in. And right now, what are you doing if you're Method?
Maybe Yoda should have let Mopsio be a Jedi Master. He's going to be a little bit too angry here as he continues to beat up on Obi-Wan.
But I think he draws a lot of his strength really from the dark side, because the dark side has cookies. And they're going in again and trying to get those cookies, going straight into that backline again. Already, they're about to take down one. They're taking down two. Diablo and Reyna fall as Maiev pays for the double kill with her life. We saw Dehaka barely moving through the team fight without falling himself, but he still kept himself alive. Has so much essence that he's putting to use now, and they're going for ADRD, and this is looking very much like it's going to be lights out. ADRD goes down, the triple kill against a Method, as we are seeing the altars activated in just a few seconds. Leftovers with such an impressive game.
Only 2 left. Order Defender comes out, but the channel has already begun as Linked will go for those last few shots on top of the core. An old man all by himself. DAB gets in his face, but that's it. Leftovers come out in game number 1. They get Maiev, they get Tracer, and they take the match against